We call that kind of people, we call it the acrobats. You know this Gauss curve?
Yes.
We say in a Gauss curve, majority are like following the system, the same curriculum and so on and so on. And it's okay, it's the way the world goes. But there are always some of them a bit out of this majority, and we call them acrobats, that usually are not so well understood in the school. The teachers are like, what are you doing? That's not right. We say it differently. And we say, okay, we need to design the environment that acrobats are acknowledged, that we see them, that we say that's perfect, that's great, let's create more of that. That's why we said the story of acrobats. You're like the acrobat that we like to... What's your passion? I see that on YouTube you posted many videos, you like rockets, you like what? What's your passion? And how you saw that that's your passion? When?
Well, so the rocket passion started a while ago. I don't remember how old I was. I used to watch quite a bit of YouTube back at the time. I probably saw a video of someone making sugar rockets.
Sugar rockets?
Yeah, with rocket candy. It's like a propellant mixture, which is sugar.
Yeah?
So yeah, normal sucrose and potassium nitrate. I guess that I saw that video and I was very interested. And so I wanted to make my own rockets. First, I tried without the potassium nitrate because it's not something you just have laying around in your kitchen.
True.
Unless you're a professional chef, in that case you do, because potassium nitrate is used as a salt in some cases. Just tried to do something without the potassium nitrate, but I quickly realized you can't do much by burning just sugar. We were able to buy a 25 kilogram bag of fertilizer because they don't sell less fertilizer. If you buy fertilizer, you must buy at least 25 kilograms. And so they sold it to us saying that it was potassium nitrate. So I just tried. I mixed the right proportion, which is 65% potassium nitrate, 35% sugar, and I saw that it burned very violently.
Any damage in the house?
No. I saw like a teaspoon of it makes like a big flame, and it makes like a mushroom cloud of smoke.
Cute.
That concerned a bit my aunt, I remember.
Okay.
Usually when you see a mushroom cloud coming out of a building, it's not a good sign.
Okay. No.
Yeah, and so I then tried to make some rockets with this mixture. You're still very young, I didn't know much physics, so first tried it just with tin foil, and somehow I actually was able to make a tin foil rocket that moved. It's surprising, though not lifting up, just horizontally. So once I realized that I didn't make much progress, I decided to study a bit more, and I found that like everyone was doing it by rolling up some paper, holding it with tape, and then using clay that was pressed as the end caps, and putting the propellant in the middle. So I tried to do that. I tried many different things, like different nozzle diameters, different nozzle geometries, different depth of the hole in the propellant, slightly different propellant mixtures. I had done like 40 tests and only one rocket flew. However, it did fly very well.
Up or horizontal?
No, up.
Down.
It flew like,
really
I don't know, maybe like 200 meters.
Whoa.
More. And of course, we didn't find it anymore. No, I'm calling them rocket. It's just the engine. It's not like the whole rocket with fins and so on. It's just the engine with a stick.
Okay.
The stick is necessary for aerodynamic stability. I thought, well, how can I make this better? And I thought, well, of course, having it as a powder is not optimal. Since both the sugar and potassium nitrate are a powder, then you of course have some space between the granules, so you don't have the max amount of fuel. It's not very rigid. It's powder after all. And potassium nitrate is hygroscopic, and so it absorbs water from the air. And usually, water does not help things burn, in most cases. Unless you have sodium, but okay. And so I tried, well, what if I heat it? What if I heat it up so that I can boil off? Of course, it didn't boil off because there was no liquid water. So what I realized is that I could melt the propellant. I would melt only the sugar, and I would have like this caramel that was very hard, and it was solid, and it didn't have any spaces between the parts. It was basically pieces of potassium nitrate suspended in caramel. I tried doing some of this propellant, and so I did like the standard test, which is you roll it into a cylinder and you try burning it. and I was surprised by how much more performing it is. This is a conundrum. You have to one of the two conundrums. The question was like, a mission is organized to colonize a planet. Right, which planet, I'm oversimplifying, which planet is best for colonization? And there was a list of how many. No, I mean, you just have to think like, what is important when colonizing a planet? Of course, you need resources, you need to have, the planet doesn't need to be covered in lava and so on. So you just have to see what is the right.
And then how is this from this to the, in DEWESoft?
Okay, so the school, I had the Rocketry Club, as I said before. We searched for Rocketry Clubs. At the start, we didn't find anything. Later, we found the team Skyward, which is a team at the Polytechnic of Milan. From their site, we were able to see that they were going to a competition called EuRoC. And so you wonder, like, what is this EuRoC? So we did some studying about it, and we found that it was a competition for university rocketry teams. So the goal was to launch a rocket as close as possible to 3 or 9 kilometers, based on the category. Very interesting competition, so we started this team. At the start, it was going kind of slowly, then we started doing some things. We actually built a small solid rocket, which did not fly, but then eventually all the team members thought that they could do better if they made their own team, and so they left the team and they made their own team. Now, at the time, I didn't know anything about DEWESoft, so at the time I said, for now we don't need anything. After a while, he contacted me again and he said, would you like to have some things? And I said, well, having an oscilloscope and a function generator would be nice. So mostly, I didn't understand what the products on the website were. I mean, I didn't even know what DAQ stood for, so...
Okay.
So I did homeschooling, and immediately if you do homeschooling, at the end of the year you have to do the exam. And so of course I thought, wouldn't it be nice if at the exam I brought a nuclear reactor?
What? Where that idea came on?
Can you imagine to be a teacher of these guys?
No, I would love it.
Reactor on the table at the final exam.
Every day has to be so interesting with him.
So I built this nuclear reactor and I really like it. It's very nice. Note, I didn't actually achieve nuclear fusion because you need a very good vacuum pump. So I have this nuclear reactor, but I mean, I can't turn it on there. Also because it would be too many things to carry. So I didn't want to carry all the power supplies and things. Why don't I just bring a simple homopolar DC motor? This sounds sophisticated. It's a battery with a magnet on top. You put a bent wire and the wire spins.
Simple.
Of course, all the teachers liked the spinning battery, the spinning wire on the battery, and only one teacher cared about the reactor from the bottom. Yeah, so in making this reactor, I had to learn a lot of things because I knew absolutely nothing about electronics. I only knew basically Arduino, LEDs, and something about resistors. And this fusion reactor needed a high voltage power supply. And of course, that is not something that you do by connecting something to an Arduino. So I had a lot to learn. And I was lucky. I found a shop that repaired televisions, and the owner of the shop was kind enough to give me a box full of PCBs of old televisions. So I stayed days desoldering components, and I also luckily had a friend called Domic. I know him via Discord. He was very good with electronics, and also something that is useful for him. He knew Chinese, and many things that are written on PCBs are written in Chinese. So he was very good at electronics, so he was able to teach me something about electronics. And in the end, by desoldering the PCBs, by disassembling UPSs and so on, I was able to harvest a high voltage transformer, and I was able to drive it with the Arduino. It was very weak. I got 2000 volts, tiny arcs, and I mean, I can't do nuclear fusion with that. You need at least 20,000 volts. After some research and a lot of help from this friend of mine, I found this design for a circuit called a ZVS driver. It's a circuit that I now like a lot because it has like 95% efficiency, and you can drive basically anything you want, basically any frequency you want, from like a 10 kilohertz up to like 300 kilohertz.
You don't know that you lost me again. So it worked.
It was the hardest circuit I had ever seen, really, not as a design, but I had never tried to do anything this complicated. Also, I did not know how to read electrical diagrams. But after like a couple of weeks, I was finally able to read the diagram and actually build the circuit on a breadboard. Breadboards are supposed to light up LEDs. This circuit is a high power circuit, and so there was a time when the breadboard started glowing.
That's not good.
Glowing red hot, the traces inside. And you would think that since it's made of plastic, if the traces inside, which are made of metal, started glowing red hot, it would like catch fire, but I don't know, maybe it was a good breadboard. It was no longer a good breadboard after that. No, I'm joking, it still worked. And I needed a good power supply for this, because you can't power it with a 9-volt battery, so I harvested a power supply from a desktop PC. Okay, so I had managed to drive the transformer well. I had like 50,000 volts, and it was hundreds of watts. So it was what I needed. And I posted what I was doing on LinkedIn. So I shared like, I made this big arc. I built this capacitor bank because I wanted to I thought I could do magnetic confinement. I mean, magnetic confinement is not very easy. I wanted to do a design. Of course, this is not really possible with the things that I had at my disposal. I had all these pictures posted on LinkedIn and posts saying of what I did. And so, of course, the DEWESoft Italia team became quite interested because they had been observing me from a while, and they saw this guy is doing interesting things. And so, after a bit, they invited me to come to Rome.
In the headquarters of DEWESoft.
Yeah, in the headquarters of DEWESoft Italy. And so so at the start they thought that it wasn't like really me doing the things. They soon discovered that it was actually me, and so they taught me how to use like the Sirius, etc. And I guess that there was something in which I was quite lucky. Months ago they had bought a Tesla coil. It's the Tesla coil that was on stage today. And so they bought it, worked perfectly for 5 minutes, then it broke. So they had spending months to repair it, and he could not understand why are the transistors dying, and I could not understand either. But I said, I think that I can make this Tesla coil work. So
you said that actually.
Yes. When I came back, they had given me like the Tesla coil, a Sirius HS, because I said I would like a high-speed acquisition system for the Tesla coil. So they had given me the Sirius HS instead of the high density, for example. They gave me also some sensors, etc. And so I came back to my room with this Tesla coil and Sirius HS. I quickly understood why the Emanuele was not able to fix the Tesla coil.
Well,
basically, the circuit was fine. It's just that the transistors had died. So he thought, I will buy some transistors on, I don't know where he bought them, maybe AliExpress, probably some Chinese site, and I will try to replace the transistors. Of course, I would say fortunately for him, he didn't know that there exists fake transistors.
Fake transistors?
Yes.
Okay.
It sounds very weird, but it's true. So basically, transistors can be very expensive. So the big transistors can be very expensive. Small transistors are extremely cheap. So you can have like a big transistor that costs hundreds of euros. Small transistor costs tenths of a cent. Some companies, maybe companies isn't the right term. Some groups of people buy the package of a big transistor. So you have like it looks like a transistor, but it's not a transistor. It's only the box of the outside. So, and they put the small transistor inside.
The cheap one.
And so they sell you this big transistor with the part number of a powerful transistor. It looks good. You quickly test it, and if they've chosen the right transistor, then it looks about right. It works. After all, it is a transistor, but it's not like 1000 volts, 500 amperes. It's like 10 volts, half an ampere. So then you plug it into your circuit and you realize why has the transistor died? So the way they make money is they buy the cheap transistor and they sell it as a high price, as an expensive transistor. So Emanuele, unknowingly, he bought these fake transistors, and since they were fake, of course they would die, and that's why the Tesla Coil didn't work. Anyways.
And that was it. It was actually the cause of the problem. You solved
Yes.
it.
However, I only realized that at the end. So what I did before is, okay, this circuit looks hard. I have never done a Tesla coil. I had tried to, but it was still with Arduino. So at the time, before going to DEWESoft Italia, I needed like some oscilloscopes. I used the Arduino. I would just display on the computer the analog input. The analog input of the Arduino. So I had like a 1 kilohertz sampling rate, 5 volt range, and a resolution of like 0.1 volts. So using the Sirius, I was able to design a new circuit. It's the simplest circuit that exists for Tesla coils. It's called a Slayer exciter, and I was able to make the Tesla coil work. I had done it just in time for a fair that DEWESoft Italia had to go to. Of course, DEWESoft is a company that sells serious equipment that is very expensive. Of course, customers don't want to see a circuit made with salvaged components on a breadboard. So I sent the circuit and the diagrams to DEWESoft Italia, and they had the PCB printed with the components. The circuit worked. I even suggested a better transistor they could use, because I had used one that I had laying around. They of course had all the transistors they wanted, basically. So basically DEWESoft Italia talked with the DEWESoft headquarters, and the DEWESoft HQ became quite interested in who I was. So they decided to allow me to visit them in November. So in November I visited the company, I did the in-house training.
You did the presentation. You made AI photos in this presentation. You show how Katapult looks like in AI. That's where we noticed who Eto is. That's where you become story here in this environment.
Yes.
And what do you do now with DEWESoft? Do you work together or anything, or how's your...
Right now I am, for example, doing a pro training lesson.
Yeah.
I'm writing it about AI. I am now in the summer camp. I have
sorry, you write this
pro training, yes.
pro training with AI. I know that they're making the new lesson because of AI.
Yeah, so
That's
I'm doing it with the Mattis. I have been to the measurement conference. You've probably seen me up on the stage. Now I'm on the summer camp. And so at home, apart from the helping with some projects, like of course the summer camp and the pro training session, this series that was landed to me, and I use it to do my experiments.
What's your dream? What do you want to develop? If you could do something today, what would you develop?
So as a project that I would like to do is like building a better rocket, I guess. So for example,
so still you're totally into building rockets.
Yeah, it's interesting. So something like, for example, the teams at EuRoC do, though if I could do anything that I want, of course, it would be more advanced. So that is definitely something that I would like to do. It's mostly that. In future, what I would like to do, I guess that I will finish school, go to university, probably become an engineer of some kind.
But you have, for example, Elon Musk said, he didn't say, I want to build a rocket. He's like, we have to start living in Mars. Let's make humanity, spread to the Mars, something. Do you have a kind of vision, what to change in this world, where to go, where do you want to help to involve humanity?
Well, I guess that I would be interested in aerospace, and there are many ways that I could help. For example, I really like the idea of having some bases on other planets or moons, so like a moon base, a Mars base. And whilst I know that I won't be the one to build it, because there are already many plans for the moon base, they will start building it in like 2 years. That's with the Artemis project. And Mars, probably Elon Musk will do it before me. But there are definitely some contributions that I could do. So something which would be quite important in making base on other planets or space stations far away. Could be like asteroid mining. I don't think I could help much with that. Not an expert in that. The space exploration, something that probably I see that the most likely way in which I will help is in research. I think it's the most likely way I will help. So for example,
Research in space.
researching more efficient rocket engines and so on. At least this is what I find most likely in the near future. Also because, of course, the rocket you make depends a lot on what you have, and if you have the same technology as everyone else, then you can't make much more. SpaceX has done more because they've done lots of research, they've developed many technologies.
And majority of it, they do it in-house, right? Okay, what about Eta outside of this engineer? What are your hobbies other than engineering, building rockets?
Yeah, so I've got, so as a hobby of mine, I've got electronics. Yeah, so once I made that nuclear reactor and I did lots of electronics, I found quite an interest in it. So there are a couple of electronic projects that I want to do, but these are basically my hobbies. So rocketry and electronics.
So I suppose that when you will actually formally work, your work will be hobby and your hobby will be work.
Probably.
How do you see this environment now that you know a bit DEWESoft, Katapult, everything that's going on here?
I think it's very interesting and good environment. So, for example, at DEWESoft, there are many people who are very good. There are definitely experts in what they do. DEWESoft has done lots of very interesting things. I mean, even apart from the products, like the Sirius DAQ, etc., which are of course very good, there seems to be a very good environment in here. As for Katapult, I would say the same, very good environment, and it would definitely seem like a good place if someone would want to start a new company.
Do you know the idea of the City of Acrobats, building the small city up there?
Yes.
Do you see yourself in it? It's kind of the idea. Okay, one thing is making the buildings. Okay, but the idea is that you're there. You have this idea, for example, building a rocket, and you have in one small place, in small city, you have everything you need. There's electronic, there's hardware, there's how to make the programs, there's accountment, there's anything that you need in a small place, and many engineers and experts that you can ask about this problems you're having. That's why I think that you would love being there, just being in the city and having everything.
It sounds
close.
Like a very interesting concept. However, I mean, of course, if you want to build a rocket, then a city is not enough. Really.
You have to go there in Texas and SpaceX and
No,
NASA.
I mean, you can have all the resources you want, but you still need a lot of space. You can't launch the rocket from close to a city. You'd have to go far away. You want to do a rocket that goes far away, so like orbit the moon, Mars, then you want to launch near the equator.
Mm-hmm. Do you know the story about were they? DEWESoft
Yes.
SpaceX that tried to build a rocket here as well. So you know DEWESoft. I suppose that you understand each other. So just create, and I believe that you'll do a great rocket one day.
Maybe.
Somewhere, somehow. Thank you, Eta. Very
You're
much.
welcome.